Can we do this without the cat?
What's going on, guys? My name is Joe Deckelmeyer. I am here with ScreenRant at WonderCon 2025 in beautiful Anaheim, California. I love being out here, even though we don't get to enjoy the Disney theme parks. We are back at conventions. I'm with James Arnold Taylor. First of all, sir, you're a legend.
Oh, come on.
You are. Listen, I went to your one-man show at Star Wars Celebration. I've caught it twice now.
Oh, bless you.
And I'll tell you what, man, you're an incredible storyteller, and your approach to voice acting is incredible to me. Oh. So the first question I have for you is, with this new film, King of Kings,
yeah,
you're voicing multiple characters.
Yes.
It's just to name a few: Timothy, Philip, young Jesus.
Yeah.
Can you walk me through your approach to distinguishing these characters while still keeping them authentic?
That's the magic question. First off, let me say hello there.
I
have to say that as Obi-Wan Kenobi, don't I? Hello there, Joe.
Goosebumps.
Yes. Now, this is your ringtone there. You were talking about, hello there, Joe. Hello there. All right. Sorry, we get a little business here. You know, the thing that was so cool about this movie, there was a couple layers of it. One is, as a voice actor, I was brought in actually 6 years ago to do all of the scratch tracks. So before all the famous people came in, I actually was the voice of Jesus. I was Dickens. I was the devil. I was most of the apostles. And thankfully, Jamie Thomason, who is the voice director and voice casting director on this, he brought me in and kept me in and knew that I could do that. But it's really about hearing each one, seeing them sometimes, but I didn't see them until later when we did like ADR. And so you just think, well, okay. And thankfully, too, I'm a Christian. I knew the story. I had my own kind of perceptions of these characters. But it's about the trickiest part of my job as a voice actor is doing regular people in multiple voices. Really? Because if I'm doing like, yeah, but if I'm doing Fred Flintstone and I'm doing, well, wait a second, Doc, Michael J. Fox, those are far apart, right? So I don't need there's not much. But if I'm doing like Matthew, who's almost like Matthew McConaughey, all right. I thought you can't do, all right, Jesus, that'll be just cool. No, but so Matthew is a little there, and then Doubting Thomas is almost like, a little like, there's a little Woody Allen, there's a little Michael J. Fox in him, there's a little Paul Giamatti, because he's a worrier, he's doubting, and then Philip's just a regular guy, just kind of right in my regular tone, but it's pretty. It's narrow.
That's incredible.
So, yeah.
Just seeing you do that, by the way, now I kind of want to fan cast the Jesus' apostles as different celebrities.
That's right.
And you can almost do your own table read at this point.
We could do Gilbert Gottfried as Judas. I don't know. Is this good? Hello? Yeah.
That's incredible.
No, it was a lot of fun. And then doing young Jesus was great because Oscar Isaac, who, of course, I've worked with Oscar in many things. We've only met like a handful of times, but we've been in, right across the street at Disneyland, Rise of the Resistance. Yeah. Lieutenant Beck that takes you on your journey. That's me. And I have scenes with him in that. Of course, I did all 5 of the Star Wars films. But in this, we get to play the same character. So if you listen carefully, I'm basically doing Oscar's voice at the age of 12.
Wow.
And so, because his voice is very much right in here. And so I thought, okay, what would it be like if he was just younger? And it's a beautiful scene. It's a very famous, obviously, biblical scene of Jesus is still in the temple, and his parents had left, and then they realized he wasn't there. How many parents have done that? And they come rushing back, and where were you? And he's like, where else would I be but in my Father's house? And so it's a beautiful scene. They let me ad-lib a little. And when I say ad-lib, only in that I was doing actually some scripture in it. Because he was teaching. They're like, because the script said Jesus is teaching the teachers. And they're like, what is it? There's no scripture. What do you want? So I just read some scripture. I read Isaiah of him prophesying about him coming. So it was kind of fun. There's a little Easter egg in
Well, I actually want to talk about your portrayal of young Jesus because I feel like that is a unique challenge all to itself.
Yeah.
Can you talk about finding the right voice for such an important figure and using your your skill to listen to somebody like Oscar Isaac and then try to make him younger in your head?
Yeah, and that was exactly it. It was really also the perception of just how he was going to portray him. I didn't get to really hear a lot of what Oscar was doing, and he's very, he's very low key.
Sure.
He's very, because how do you voice the King of Kings? So he's just there. Although he brings it up at times too. So it was just like taking that and pitching it. Now I've played a lot of like kids' voices throughout my career. Johnny Test is 11 years old and totally awesome, and nobody ever guesses that Obi-Wan Kenobi and sometimes Hiccup from How to Train Your Dragon and Captain Jack Sparrow and Christopher Walken would be Johnny Test as well. So it's not Johnny for sure, because Johnny would be obnoxious as Jesus, but it's still in my higher range, and it's more in there. So
I'll tell you what, man, if if you weren't such an incredible voice actor and you didn't have this calling to already be in this industry, if you got a job as a telemarketer and you started busting out one of these like Michael J. Fox, I'd buy whatever you were selling, I think.
Oh man, it's a funny story about that. So I was doing promo voices for ABC for years, and Spin City was on, and it was Michael J. Fox's show. And the people there were like, "Can you call up the guy in the head of the promo department and fire him as Michael J. Fox?" They wanted to pull a prank on him. So I'm like, okay, hey Tom, it's just not working out. I'm sorry, man. We're gonna have to let you go and all that. And the guy was like, "How did you guys get Michael J. Fox to do that?" So I've had fun doing that. But I've been a voice double for many, many years. The trick as a voice actor is hopefully nobody knows that you're doing it. So when you see them and you hear my voice coming out of their mouth, you don't go, something's off.
Sure. Now, I do want to talk about your resume because it spans from iconic characters like Obi-Wan Kenobi to Leonardo from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Was there a character in Kings of Kings that challenged you into a new direction you didn't plan on going with the character?
That's a great question. So I'm about 8 different characters. I think I'm credited for about 6 of them. Melchior is one of the wise men. Of course, the 3 wise men that bring the gifts, the gold, frankincense, and myrrh to the baby Jesus. And I bring frankincense. And that one was kind of sprung on me last minute, I think, when I had voiced it one way originally, and then when we went back into the ADR, Jamie Thomason wanted to change it a little. And so I was basically doing Ian McKellen. So if you listen, Sir Ian McKellen has a little cameo in The King of Kings, yes. And he doesn't have a ton of lines, but they're important lines. And so there's that. And then I have a scene with myself in those scenes because I'm also King Herod, who's played by Mark Hamill, who's, of course, a dear friend of mine from years in Star Wars. He plays King Herod. I play his scribe. So the wise men come up and bring the gifts and tell King Herod of the baby Jesus. And then the scribe is kind of describing these things to the king. And of course, Mark is doing a wonderful job as King Herod. So that was kind of the fun challenge. I think that's why we had to change it, was we didn't want it to conflict with what I was doing as the scribe. So that's always the trick when you're multiple characters in one scene.
Sure. Now, with Star Wars, many fans know and love you as Obi-Wan. You're so iconic in that role. Did anything from your portrayal as Obi-Wan influence your approach to these thoughtful disciples in the film?
That's a great question. I've always kind of looked at Obi-Wan is he's a true believer.
Sure.
And, people always say, what is it you love about him? And it's like, he's a true believer of the faith. He's a true believer of his faith, the Jedi, the code, and all of that. I try to live my own life that way in my Christianity, in my walk there. So I think I'm always kind of thinking about that. There was ways I was trying to sneak Obi-Wan into the movie a little. I'm like, okay, I can just get Obi-Wan in there somewhere. I think maybe in the background in some of the crowd scenes there might be a hello there or something.
Really?
I don't know, but if they kept it, who knows? But I'm in almost every scene in the backgrounds because there's a lot of scenes that are very. First off, let me say about this movie: it's cinematic, it's beautiful. Whoosh, who is the cinematographer, is a live action cinematographer. So he was able to create, much like we did in Clone Wars, they had a digital world and they could place the camera wherever they wanted in the scenes and do these sweeping shots. And so it's really beautiful, but there's a lot of great scenes in there. I think I'm one of the guys that turns them away. There's no room in the end. And in those, I was like, yeah, there's no room. But I think originally I tried to get Obi-Wan in for that one.
I kind of want to talk about that for a second because I feel like this is a story that most of everybody knows. It's been told through multiple different forms of media, in different mediums as well. What is it about this project that stands out to you, especially during this time of Jesus' life?
Oh, that's a great question. I think, and like I say, I've been involved from the beginning. Well, not the beginning. They've been doing it 10 years, 6 years, the beginning of the voice casting. And as a person of faith, I've always wanted to be able to do a little more of that. I've worked in the secular world for my whole career, 3 decades. And so to get a chance to do this was really fun. But what I loved about it is it's a very honest and not preachy way of telling the story of Jesus and his walk and his life. And it's just kind of like just opening up the door to a story. Of course, Charles Dickens wrote this story back in 1846 for his children, and it wasn't published until 1934, 64 years after he died. But he was very passionate about teaching his kids about the Gospels. And I think that it comes through in the movie because, of course, it's a wonderful Kenneth Branagh, who, by the way, Kenneth Branagh can pull out some voices. Sir Kenneth Branagh. He's wonderful, and he's doing all sorts of voices voices throughout the movie as he's telling the story as Dickens to his son, young Walter, played by Roman. Roman's fantastic too. And I don't know if y'all know this. I mean, there's a lot of Star Wars people in this. Jim Cummings,
yes,
of course, is Hondo Anaka. Forrest Whitaker, of course, was in the Rogue One, and then we've got D. Bradley Baker.
I love D. Bradley Baker.
Is the cat, Willa the cat. So you've got actually a bunch of Star Wars people in this movie too, which is pretty fun.
You know, speaking of Star Wars, I got to ask, because you shaped a lot of my childhood. I think the one thing I loved about the Clone Wars was that it was for all ages. It was for everybody, and the story was just so good and compelling. Now we know that there's the Star Wars legacy things out there from Dark Horse that Disney considers Star Wars legacy stories.
Okay.
Are there any of those Star Wars stories or more stories of Obi-Wan that you've never got a chance to tell that you've always still wanted to? I feel like you get this question a lot.
No, and I'm pretty vocal about it. I'm waiting for Lucasfilm to go, James, stop. But I would really love for them to tell the story in an animated form of the Duchess Satine and Obi-Wan when they were younger and they met. Because, of course, we talk about it throughout Clone Wars. And Anna Graves and I are, we're very talented voice actors. We could pull that off, be younger. I could be a younger Obi-Wan Kenobi, and she could be a younger Duchess Satine. I would love to see that story. Selfishly, yes, but also because I think the fans would love it too.
Absolutely.
There's a beautiful, wonderful group of fans that I see at every Comic-Con that dress up as, they call it Obatine. I don't know if you know this, the Duchess and Obi-Wan. So I love that story. I'd also love the story of Ahsoka and Plo Koon. Because I voiced Jedi Master Plo Koon as well, and so he discovered Ahsoka, and we only got a hint of it in the one Tales of the Jedi.
Yes.
I would love to see more of that story and him kind of raising her up at the Jedi Temple.
Oh, that would be incredible.
Yeah,
That's so cool. Now, are there characters when you do these characters like Obi-Wan or any of these other iconic Star Wars characters? Is there ever a direction that the characters go that gives you new insight to want to tell more of their stories?
Ooh, great question, Joe. Yeah. I mean, when we did the second season in Clone Wars, and George Lucas says, "Oh, Obi-Wan had a past love interest," that was like, "What, are you kidding me?" And the thing I loved about Clone Wars is it allowed us to do what Star Trek did from the beginning. Star Trek was a TV show and then did movies. We were movies and then did TV. And we were able to go into their daily lives.
Right.
So you get to go into Anakin's, chambers at the Jedi Temple and see him and have a conversation with Obi-Wan and Anakin, And Matt Lanter, Matt is, of course, a dear friend of mine. We actually live near each other.
Really?
But he lives up on a hill. And I'm telling you, he did it on purpose, just so he could have the high ground. Yes, but no, I love him. And so we always had fun doing all of that. So I think that was the most exciting and cool part about it, was that we got to tell stories differently.
Listen, I agree with you. I feel like the thing I loved most about Clone Wars is it really filled in the gaps between the films.
Right.
And it gave us and I felt more like the characters really were complete through a different lens after watching that series completely. And it did so much. I just love that series. It's absolutely incredible. And you're so incredible in it. But look, James, thank you so much for stopping by. If anybody, are you going to be at Star Wars Celebration this year?
They did not. My invite got lost in the mail, I guess, sadly.
Yeah, hopefully there's still a little time. There's still a little time. Hopefully,
Jedi mind trick.
Hopefully we get you out to Japan, because I'll tell you what, when you do those one-man shows, I feel like you do such a great job of connecting with the audience, giving us a behind-the-scenes look of your process, which you just did here, which is absolutely incredible to see in person. But it's such a wonderful insight. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And I would just say, yes, I would say anybody should go check out The King of Kings, because it's really for anyone. And it's a movie you could share. And if you're a person of faith, it's a great way to share your faith with somebody that isn't, without being pushy or feeling like you're kind of throwing it on them. And that's what I think they've really accomplished. A beautiful film.
And the animation's gorgeous.
And the animation's gorgeous. The voices are amazing. And then I'm in there too. You can see Obi-Wan.
Well, you're incredible. Thank you so much for stopping by, James.
Thanks
It's a
so much.
pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, absolutely.